All right. Hello, everybody. Hi. There's a lot of us here today. Hello and good afternoon. I am broadcasting live from Northwest Arkansas. And so it's nice to see where everyone's from. Louisiana. We're supposed to go to New Orleans, but this weather, we're having a winter storm. So I'm not sure if we can even go anymore. But we have some friends, a friend from Melbourne, Australia. Hello, mate. Snowy Michigan is here. California, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Canada. Hello, Indiana. I hope you're all staying well and staying healthy in this very cold night. But it depends on which part of the world you're in. But I'm so glad that you're here. Today's class, I was just talking about this class, particularly on my Instagram. That's a hint. If you're not following me on Instagram, please do so. It's at Mommy also. This class we're going to have, it's really about having fun. Okay, so we've done classes. We did brush lettering, we did the brush calligraphy, and I would get messages and it's like, Lay, I've been practicing. I promise I've been practicing, but I'm still having a hard time with brush lettering. Okay, so today's class is about creative lettering. Now, I know sometimes when you hear terms like this, hand lettering, creative lettering, brush calligraphy, what's the difference? And so that's what we're going to do today is I want you to leave the class today with learning something and being more, I think, more happy with your handwriting, because we talked about that handwriting and hand lettering are two different things. So I'm going to try and explain everything. As I'm explaining, I'm going to show samples, and I hope you do have your worksheets with you. And if you don't, like always, it's okay. You can go back and download and print that at home so you have something, and then you can practice over and over. But I'm going to head over to the overhead camera, and we're going to get this class started. I also hope that we don't get cut off with this storm. I hope that the internet God will be nice to us and we won't get cut off. Okay, so here I have some worksheets. If you have it in front of you, the first page is really just an explanation of what hand lettering is. Okay, so basically hand lettering is the art of drawing your letters. And you might think that, oh, so it is the fancy way just to write the alphabet. Yes, you are correct. But really, like every skill, you need practice. You need to spend time doing it every day, whether it's painting, whether it's singing or dancing, you need to really spend time in honing that skill. All right. So one of the things that I always being told, okay, so I've always been told, Lay, I don't think I can ever do beautiful letterings like you because I have a terrible handwriting. So who here have I don't even want to say that. So who in here is not happy with their handwriting? I am not the best at handwriting. I think I've shown someone that that my plain handwriting is not the most pleasing as well. So I have also, if you're going to ask, this is a Rhodia dot pad. I love using this as a practice. This is a dot grid paper, and I really love using it because it's so soft and smooth. It really helps my brush pens to last a bit longer. Okay, so I'm going to write. I love my handwriting, Miss Brandy said. Good for you. Yay. Okay, so Jennifer said she has an awful handwriting. This is, honest to goodness, is my handwriting when I'm writing like fast. Okay. So handwriting. Oh, I can't even spell. That's me handwriting fast. So when I say your handwriting is not going to matter, that's to some degree. Okay, so if you're going to write fast, of course it's going to look like this. But when you start writing intentionally, even if I have this handwriting and I start writing slow, and I am more intentional with the height of my letters, as long as people can read it, then nope, this is not my hand lettering. This is fake. That's my handwriting. So since I'm writing intentionally, it's starting to look much better than this one. So when we talk about hand lettering, we are actually drawing each letter, right? So every single time you become intentional with your every stroke, you're almost doing hand lettering already. So what we're going to learn today is we're going to start with the basic of anatomy of letters. So I'm going to get a ruler in here. I think I have in the worksheet as well. You're going to see in there. Let's look at this one first. Okay, so let's understand the basic in here. This is the anatomy of letters. Okay, so we have your ascender, which is on top. If you have a ruler in front of you, I really want you to write 4 lines. All right, so just if you don't have a ruler, it's okay. Just have 4 lines, have some decent space in between, because we're going to understand this basic anatomy. All right, so we have 4 in here. So the letter on top, let's understand, let's just write hand, or even just the letter H. I think in the practice sheet, I wrote hey. So let's do hey, so we can understand this. All right. So for the letter H, you see this first loop right here. This is actually the ascender of the letter. And this is included in your worksheet, so you don't have to write this down. Okay, this whole area in the middle, this is the height of each letter. Here, this is the base of each letter. That's your base. Now, this is your descender. Now, this is good because this is a script, but even if you're writing in print, it's going to be the same thing. So let's write it hey again, but in a print form, but in small caps, right? So hey, each letter will still have the same anatomy. You still have your ascender, you have your descender, you have the whole height of each letter, you have your base. Why am I teaching this? This is really important because what we're going to do today is we're going to use your own handwriting and we're going to turn it into a creative lettering. Yes, I know what you're thinking, that it might be impossible, but I tell you not, it's going to happen. Okay, so in the worksheet, I was just explaining some of the basics. Now, one of the things that I have to learn when I was doing my creative journey is that I wanted to use my own handwriting as a base, because I think that's what happened when I was learning brush lettering. I was copying so much of others people writing. So what helped me a lot is how I would naturally write my letters. That's how I started. Instead of trying to copy everybody else and how they were doing it, I just started writing in the way I would write my letters. So for example, if you naturally write your letter H this way, start with this way. If you write it with a loop, then go with the loop, right? So my goal is for you to not try too hard today. We're going to make this fun. All right, so when we say creative lettering, there's many different types. There's a script. There's even a calligraphy style with all the flourishes. We have a print. We have some all small caps. We have print in all the big letters. Now, there are two very not famous, those are two things that you're gonna have to remember, two styles of lettering. There's a serif and a sans serif. Sans means no in French. So serif lettering, when you see letters like this, okay, so when you see letters with the tails, let me zoom it in real fast. Now this is your serif when you see tails like this. Now the sans serif, which means no tail, would be just the simple lettering this way. It's important to understand this two different this two different style, because I want you to use this two different style to characterize the feel of your lettering. So I want you to choose. I want you to pick, do you love the serif style or do you love the sans serif? The sans serif is usually the ones that are being called modern look because it's clean, it's, straight lines. Now the serif looks more like the old world of style of lettering. I personally love the serif style, and that's how I use my lettering. So if I'm going to write bold, the letter B, I would always put a wing on the sides of my letters. So L, I'll put a wing on there, and this. So I use the style of serif. Now you might not like it. You might just like the sans serif without any wings or tails in your letters at all. All right, so when we studied the anatomy of letters, we studied the base and the height. Why is this important? Because when you're doing creative lettering, for example, you've seen me type or write the word hey. The first thing we're going to learn is I want you to play with the height of each of your letter. Write your word, write your name. For example, super simple. I just have to add a letter L in there, then that's my name. Okay, so play around with the height. Now, what does it mean? If you write lay this way, I want you to maybe, instead of your H being like this, try and making your H a little higher. Try making it a little shorter. See the difference? So I'm going to write my name as Leonora. Now I'm going to play with my letter E. Make it higher instead of being here on O. Instead of your O all the way up, maybe just in the middle size. So play around with your height. That's her first step. So I'm going to write the word hope. I'm going to make this one O. It's okay if it's going to look a little wonky or funny, but this is the way we're going to experiment with our letters today. Is we want to find that particular look that will make you happy and content with your creative writing. Now, if you're having trouble with your brush pens, I'm going to use the small tip of Faber-Castell. Faber-Castell also has a 1.5 tip. With this style of creative lettering, I really love using the 1.5 or the bullet tip. It's because it gives me a very clean lines. Instead of using the brush pen, I only use the brush pen when I'm doing brush calligraphy because it is a very special tool that will be able to give me some thin and thick lines. But with this type of lettering, I love using the 1.5. All right, so we played around with the hey. Now let's take a step from using this word. Let's play around with the height, like what I said. All right, so maybe I'll make my H higher this way. And this is how you're going to compose a font. So Jennifer said that she used to be a graphic artist. Oh, calligraphy and this lettering, but oh, definitely very different. Calligraphy and this type of lettering will be very, very different. So let's play around with the H, with the E. Since we have our hoops up or the loop over there, so I'm going to make my letter E also higher. So this is us playing with the height of our letters. So the Y is there. Everything is on top. I'm going to make my Y this way. So just notice the difference. I mean, this is if you look at fonts on the computer and you see like slinky fonts or you see like curly fonts, I mean, it is the best way to play around with your own handwriting. We're using our own handwriting here. Okay, so instead of small caps, let's write the word hey again. So instead of being on higher or on the top, I'm going to make everything here small. Look at our letter H. Everything is here. I'm going to make my Y as well. But it looks very similar. It just looks like it got smaller. So how can we play around with this style and make it look different than our first base? Okay, so maybe I should make my letter H small and maybe keep my E on the top and maybe make my Y still over there. But play around, that's the height. Now, let's play with the width, okay? So, all right, that's my letter H. Instead of making it slinky, I'm gonna make it wider. So make your letters wider. See? Okay, so again, what do we call when it's a clean looking lettering like this? This is a sans serif without those wings. So we played around with the height, we play around with the width. Now let's try it and add some wings to it if we're going to do some serif style. What are we going to do if we're going to do the serif? We're just going to add some lines over there. So this is my letter H. Okay. Right. Now letter E. Maybe I should make my letter E capital. Instead of a small caps. I'm going to make my Y and just add your little wings like that. So that's another way to play around. Play around with your height, play around with the width of the letter, and choose which style of lettering you like, the sans serif or the serif style. Those are the basic things. All right, so now, how can we improve from here and say, you know what, I really like that serif style, but I don't like writing in small caps. Okay, then let's do capital letters. So don't forget your tails. And like this. Now I'm playing around with the width. I'm going to make my letter E much wider than how I did it earlier. And instead of, it still kind of looks like a script. This time I'm going to make my letter Y this way and add all of that. So that's another way of lettering. Next one, you know what? Okay, how can we, I like it, but it's too boxy for me. It's too old style looking. Okay, then let's play around and add some curlies. So write your letter H. Instead of adding your serif, make your sides like this. So instead of a boxy and straight lines, we're going to make it curly. So here, actually, if you want to do it, you can add over here. So to me, that's a little confusing to read when it has so much flourishes like that. So if you're going to look at my Instagram, how I try to do a creative lettering is that I want it to be readable, but at the same time, I want it to look like me. Now, this is just not my style. Some people would really like this style. Say Monday. I think it's just the placement of your curls that's gonna matter. So maybe stick with just the first letter and the last. So it's still going to be very readable. So just adding minimal so that it won't look super crazy and it's hard to read. But I know there's like fonts like this on the computer where it's like every single letter has some curlies. Like that. I know, Trisha, what happened was when I was studying and trying to play around with my letters because I think as an artist and as a creative, you don't have to be an artist to do this. As a creative, I think what we forget to do is it's okay to try many different things, you know? So this is what we're doing right now is we're playing and we're actually thinking, all of us here, how can we make things different? Now, so we tried the curly. Now let's see, well, how about if we write it in script? Okay, then let's do that. Even though we're not using a brush pen, we can still create a beautiful script without the torture of having to do the thin and thick strokes, because I hear you, it is not easy. Okay, so hey. Okay. How can we make hey in script in different ways? Okay, let's play around with the hey. Maybe instead of your loop going up like this, maybe it's going to go like this and up, letter H. And then maybe instead of your base being here, maybe you want it to go down a little bit. See why it's important, the anatomy? So you made just a tiny loop down. And then let's play around with the height. Instead of it being all in one height, maybe I'll play around with my letter E. Go up a little bit. And I'll do the same way to my letter Y. See? And then instead of it being like that, I'm going to make it a little small and just stay down here. Right. So you can write the word over and over and over again. And you can come up with many different ways that you are going to do it. So, okay, that's interesting. Now let's play around with the height of our letter H. We swooped it down a little bit. What if we actually make it a little higher? So I'll do it again. H. I'll go high a little bit more and then swoop it down a little bit. Okay. Maybe I'll make my Y a little bigger this time. And then maybe I'll make this loop go up until here. Okay, my only problem with this lettering, when you're playing around with the height of your letter, is this one. Will that confuse you sometimes? It doesn't look like an H anymore, right? It kind of looks like, I don't know. It's hard to visualize it anymore, but we know it's hey, so common sense will tell us that's hey for sure. A W, yeah, I can see that too. So what's been happening in I think with lettering is that it is overwhelming because there's a lot of information. There's a lot of classes, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of artists doing, many different styles. And we sometimes forget that we we can play around with our own handwriting. And that's like what I said. I want you to do that today. So let's choose a word that we're going to write. Okay, I'm going to choose, and I'm going to use my own handwriting here. So I like writing in small letters. That's just how I like it. I don't like big capital letters. If I'm going to do my lettering, I like small letters. So let's butter. I love butter. So I'm going to write it down plain and simple first, same height, each letter. Okay. Actually, this is a little bit smaller than I would like. I should have made that's not, if I'm going to write it down, there's 4 grids in here. I'm going to do this. Like that. Okay, so that's much better. So butter. Oh, Trisha, thank you. So this is another way to write the butter. See, everything is just much smaller. Now I'm going to write butter again in a different way. I want you to play around, okay? While I'm playing here, I would really love for you to play as well with your word butter. So if I made it small, now how about make it big and skinny like this? So how about this one? I'll make it wider. So now I'm playing with the height and the width. Now I am going to play with this letter and add a little bit of hoop in there and add this one as well. So I am going to make my E just as wide as my letter U, right? And then I'll make the letter R skinny and long like the other ones. Look, this is like a typed font that you're going to find in the computer. And this could easily just be your handwriting. So Pat is asking, yes, Lisa, well, first let's do, the dot paper is called Rhodia. So you can get this from Michael's as well. I love that the dot grids is not super dark. It's just right there. It's not overwhelming. Okay. So the next question, are you counting the dots to make the grid? Yes, visually, I kind of like counting. So if I have 4 for each letter, because I write big, naturally I write really big. So I'm using 4 dot grids. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This will compose my whole letter. But that only means that my height can be 1, right? So that might be too small for you, or that might even be too big for you. So it just depends on the way you would naturally write your letters. You might want to try 6. Okay. So visually, remember that letters, lines that we did earlier. If we're going to do a line here, so let's say this is our top line. Now you can play around with the height. This time, I'm going to make my height really small. And this is how you play around with that. You have a big space for your ascender here. So look, I'm wrong. That's lie. So this is your descender. So this is my ascender. All right. So see what I'm doing? I am also confusing myself. So this is where the top of the letter, this is the base. That means you only have this much space for the whole height of each letter. So play around with your lines. Let's say 1. Now I want a small ascender, but I want a wide, I want a much higher height. And then I want a small descender too. So I'm going to write in different colors so we can see this. So that means if I'm going to write the word hey, this is just my space for my ascender. And that means I have this whole space for the whole height of each letter. That is so darn big. But this is how you're going to play around. This is how you're going to find your style. So if you don't do the hoop, let's say T, that means this is where you're going to put your ascender on top. And if I do a letter Z in script, this is my place for my descender. Okay, so this is the Faber-Castell Pink Carmine in 127 and brush pen. Is there any way to temporarily transfer the dots to wood? Oh, that's actually a good, that might be hard. I would probably use the power of pencil and write down your lines. For example, like what we did earlier, we created our lines. So it's much easier to erase it. But I have, yeah, that would be hard to transfer the dots. Yes. Unless you Mod Podge the whole thing, then you'll have the whole dots, right? So that's not good. Okay. Could you use a hard pencil? Maybe. Absolutely. You guys know I love pencil when I'm trying to play around with my letters. Vic said that he is confused as heck. I know, right? Okay, so let's play around. Erase the whole line because I don't want you to get confused, but those lines are really important when you're playing around with the height and the width. I mean, the height, most especially of your letter. So let's see. Here you go. I'm going to use a pencil. Let's write the word hey again. So just here, I'm going to count down. I'm going to count the grids here so you guys will know. Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think this is the perfect grid to practice. And now, of course, you cannot see. Oh, Lord. Here we go. So I used 1, 2, 3 grids for the height of my letter. Here we go. And then I used just the bottom part for the descender. And I have actually used here. So there's 1, 2, 3 for the top. Right now, if we want to play around with the word hey and you're using a pencil, this is the best way. So I want to play around. I'm going to make this like that. I'm going to make this like this. I'm going to play around this way. Look how that changed already. I'm going to try. Where's my erasers? And if you have a tracing paper, it actually will help a whole lot too, doing that. See, I just really love using pencil, especially when I'm trying to build a composition of lettering. Let's try to build the words again before we proceed to one quote, because we're going to finish with a quote here. Let's practice with the word love. It's always a good word, love. Okay. I'm going to start with this and this. Use your own handwriting. This is my letters. No, it's not the most prettiest. That's my word love. How can I change this and turn it into a creative lettering? Okay, so other than the height, other than the width, what else can you play with? You can, like what we did earlier, we mixed capital letters with small caps, right? That's how you can play. You can use the capital and use the small caps as well together in one word. You can mix serif and sans serif together. Okay. What else can you play with? You can play with your flourishes. You can make it curly. Add those curls and all that. You can play with the height, the width. Now let's play. How about we play around with script and print? That's a good. Okay, let's try that. the word love. I'm going to use the letter L in a script way. So I'm just going to letter L. All right. And then I would do O in print. Now I'm going to play with my V, with the height of my letter V. So I do this and then bring this up, right? And then I will add a sans serif of letter E here, but in a curved way, like this. So look at this. We have a script. We played around combining small letter and capital letter. We played around with the height of this letter V. And we mixed some sans serif and a serif together in this lettering. I love it. I'm going to try and do that again with the word heart. So I am going to write the letter H in script, but this time I'm going to make it a small caps. So H. Now I'm going to add a capital E in script again. Okay, I'm going to use small caps A. And then I'm going to play around with the letter R with the whole height. So if I'm going to write the word R here, it has to be like this, if same height, but I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm going to play around with the height of the R. Like that. And then I would make this capital. Like that. I would make it a serif way. It's just so fun because I think what we're forgetting sometimes, it doesn't have to be traditional lettering. You can play around and experiment like this, and it still looks so great. Okay, so since it's the month of February, which is amazing to me, I can't believe it. I feel like it's just Christmas. It was just Christmas yesterday, and now it's Valentine's already. So let's write the word Happy Valentine. Okay. So I am going to write it down first, regular. But I want the happy to be all capitals for now. And I want to play around with the width. So it's all wide. It's best to use pencil. So I'm just, this is me eyeballing things. I'm just not counting really, but as long as they have same height, to me, it looks okay. Right, so now we have happy. Now Valentine. So visually, when you're trying to compose a piece, you know, doing composition, here we go. So we have letter V in here. I'm going to play around with this height. I want it to be really bigger than the happy. Okay, so V, letter A. I'm going to use a serif style in there. Same with my letter E. I'm going to make this one small caps, but play around with my descender. I'm going to make it really go down. I'll play around with my letter T, right? Letter I, like that. And then I'll make this a capital N. But notice what I'm going to do with my N. This is our descender, right? I'm going to loop it down here, and I'm going to make a hoop like this. I know it's going to look weird right now, but Trust me, it's a letter N. All right. And I'm going to make A. To make it balance visually, I'm going to make my letter E really big. Look. So we have Happy Valentine. So now we played around with a lot of things, mixing capital and small letters. We mixed the serif to a sans serif. We mixed and added some flourishes. We played around with the height, the width of the letter. We mixed some script and some print letters. Now, how can we make this different? Because the Valentine is super big and the happy is there. Now, this is where we're going to add some weight actually to our letter. So what we're going to do is add some stroke. We're going to add some weight, width, and contrast. What does that mean? So our happy, our word happy, instead of it being skinny like this, we're just going to add some stroke in the middle and like that, right? We're going to make it like this. Add more here and in the middle again. And then I'm going to add one there. And in the middle, we're going to add this. Same with the letter P. Add another stroke over here. Add here. Add there. And now we're just going to add. We're going to fill in the letters. This time we're adding some contrast to it. There. Yeah. I am actually super excited to invite everyone also for the whole month of February. We have 3 premium classes with Faber-Castell, and it's all about creative lettering, but specific styles. So the next style that we're going to learn is actually block letters. And I love using block letters because if you are familiar with my style of illustration, I love the kawaii things, you know, cute little things. And so block letter just fits that style. The next one is balloon lettering. So that's what we're going to do next. And the last one was monoscript lettering. So if you want to invest your time, I promise you, you're going to learn a whole lot this whole month of February. So look, it's mostly balanced now because the letters on top, the capital ones, are not super skinny and hard to read. So here we have H, and everything is, what is this style? This is the sans serif because we don't have any tails or anything like that. Very clean looking fonts. Right. So the Valentine, you can do the same thing here, or you can do some faux calligraphy. Mary, I'm not sure if you can access it, if they're going to send you the link, if you registered for it and you weren't able to attend. I'm not sure how that process go, but when I do something like that on my website, I send the links to all the students. Okay, so faux calligraphy. What is faux calligraphy? We know that calligraphy is the type of lettering that includes the thin and thick strokes, right? So if you're going to use a brush pen lettering the Valentine, you're not going to use the faux calligraphy style because by adding some pressure, by applying pressure, you're going to create a thin and thick stroke. Very light stroke to create the thin and very hard pressure to create the thick strokes. But if you struggle with that, then faux calligraphy is the way to go. But still very important to understand where you're going to add the width to each letter. Now, you're going to add the width to each letter every single time you did a downward motion. So it doesn't matter if you're a lefty, every single time you created that downstroke motion, this is where we're going to add weight to the letter. So I know sometimes I have to visually retrace my letter again, and it's okay. So I know that I did here, I did upstroke. So that's not it. So this one is downstroke. Okay. So let's add a letter outside. Could be inside or outside, just depending on the spaces you have in each letter. So here I know that this is going up. So this is not it, but I kind of went down here. So maybe I can add a little bit here. See what I did there? Just add a small loop. And to make everything look balanced, I'm going to add a little bit here too. So here and there, right? Okay, so now the next letter. Here I did a downstroke motion, so I'm going to add an extra line here. So here going up, not there, this one going down, add an extra line and just close the letters in. Okay, the next letter, letter L. For sure, I did a downstroke motion. Just follow the lines that you created in the first, and I close that. And here, visually, I know that this is going to look much better if I add a little tiny hoop here, even if I went up in here. So sometimes you have to break the rules as well if visually it's more pleasing to you. See what I did here is I add a little bit of hoop over there too, because even though they're all different, I still want them to look visually coordinated, more aesthetic. Is that the term that everyone's using now? Okay, so we're gonna add a little bit here, repeat the same here, and then I'll do what I did with the other letters, just adding some little hoops over there, right? So now we're actually adding some flourishes. You can call that you're adding flourishes here or adornments here. See what I did here? I added on the inside instead of the outside, because if I did it on the outside, it's going to go way over here. I will not have a proper space for between my N and my letter T. So sometimes you have to go on the inside of each letter instead of the outside. For my letter T, I'm going to add here like that. I'm actually going to add some wing over here. I think that's going to look good. Now for here, I'm going to go retrace it and just add a little bit for the hoop. And do the same way into the hoop. Right. This time, I'm going to add it on the outside of the letter I, like that. And then this. So here, I'm going to add the extra line here. That. Extra line here. So going up, I'm just going to make this curve a little bit, see? And then we'll add that extra line over there on top. So from here, I'm going to add this one there and add something on the side there. There we go. So you can use this, do your own handwriting to create your own letters, create your own cards. Wouldn't that be so nice? And what you can do with this one is scan it and actually have it printed. So you can save your work for next time. There we go. So now that we have that, we're just going to repeat what we did there is we're going to fill in those area like that here. One thing that I'm excited about the premium class is it's actually a very limited spot. So I think people that are really want to invest in that time will have more engagement because the class will be smaller and I'll be able to look at your work and give you some inputs, maybe what you need to put focus on, or maybe change and adjust and all that. Here we go. I'm just filling in the areas of that stroke that we added. So just filling in, filling in. If you want to skip this part and just go to use your markers already, please feel free to do so. But I like doing this because I can see which one maybe I need to add a little bit more weight to, each stroke, or maybe it's a little too thick and all that. So that way you can still adjust. Like this, I feel like this is like needs a little bit more weight to it. This. Yep, everything's looking good. All right. Look at that. So you can choose to use a much finer tip, or you can choose, just the bullet tip like this, the bullet pen, the 1.5. What I'm going to actually try and do is, I think, we'll see, because sometimes I write so heavy that even with the bullet tip, and it's supposed to give me a very a consistent line, sometimes I'm still not doing it. So just mind the pressure that you're using. If you're using just a regular small tip, fine tip, that's fine too. So just carefully retrace all the strokes that we created like that. Ooh, I don't know about you, but I have issues with going over that line work that I did. Sometimes yeah, I go outside the line. You're very, very welcome. Yes, this is very, very fun way to create your own fonts in the computer. And you can actually use your own handwriting and hand lettering in a fun way by just changing those few things, the height, the width, mixing your small and big letters. Wasn't that super fun? I hope that you will be more confident in using your own style, creating your own style and using your own handwriting for your next project. That is my goal here. So letter P. I think what happens sometimes is I'm trying to rush everything. That's why I'm messing up my lettering, like what I did here. So just take it one stroke at a time, Lay. Don't be such in a hurry. I don't know. My hands sometimes do the opposite what my brain tells it. I hope I'm not alone. Here we go. I've never been a fan of the sans serif, but it actually looks great. Now here I am adjusting. I'm adding a little bit more weight to that middle part. See, now it's better. There we go. Here we go. Here. Thanks so much, Jen. You're very welcome, Pat. Here, I'm gonna add. And actually, with the word happy, you could have, created a faux calligraphy with that too, even if it was just a print. All right. So with the Valentine, I think I'm going to start with a very fine tip. This is the super fine of Faber-Castell. As you can see, it's really, really thin, right? So you can do exactly this. I'm going to start with one letter so I can show you what it's going to look like. The reason why I like doing this is because I feel like I end up with a much cleaner lettering rather than using my brush pen, because sometimes my hands become too heavy, or I don't know. I think it's all about the pressure that you apply when using your brush pen. So sometimes because I write naturally heavy, I always have trouble with the width and the weight of my hand. So my lettering, sometimes I mess it up. It might take a little bit to fill in by using a super fine tip, but I wanted to show you the difference. So I didn't do a great job with that one, but I'm going to try and use a brush pen so I can show you if you're going to use a brush pen with this. I think I messed up this tip already. So, but this does save a lot of time because just by applying pressure, I am naturally creating that thick stroke already, right? See, I filled in that one space. But because we did the sketch, I know exactly how thick my stroke should be. It's kind of like you have this guide, and it makes it so much easier because I can go back here and just use my brush pen and using the belly of the pen itself. With this one, I know I'm going to struggle creating this thick, so I'm just going to go back in there later and then add that thickness. So even when you're using a brush tip, it is still possible to go back. Don't think that, oh gosh, I didn't get the desired thickness of the stroke. I messed it up already. No, you can always come back in and then add more thickness to it. No one is going to be mad. I do this all the time. Doesn't have to be perfect in your first try. So sketch and play around, and that's the key. And if you created something with us today, I would love, love, love to see it. If you're following me on Instagram, please tag me, tag Faber-Castell USA, and use the hashtag Make It with Michaels. I love going through the hashtag because I see a lot of beautiful creations, and I'd love to see yours in there. We're almost done. That's so beautiful. The art of creative lettering. And like what I said, it doesn't have to be overwhelming or it doesn't have to be scary because by those simple tips that we've learned today, play around with the width, mix your capital and small, mix your serif and sans serif, and just don't be afraid to experiment and try things. That's the key to this one is keep writing it over and over. Use your own handwriting, start with the base, and I think you're good to go. But if you have any questions that I haven't answered today, reach out to me on Instagram, on Facebook. I'll be happy to help. Thank you for joining me. Please stay warm, everybody. I hope to see you in the next 3 classes that we have this month. I'm super excited. We have thorough classes that we're going to learn, block lettering, balloon lettering, and then monoscript. Those are 3 are going to be super fun. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michaels. Thank you, Faber-Castell. Until next time, stay creative and stay happy. God bless you all. Thank you.